Welcome to another episode of the Practical Broker Podcast. On today's podcast, we're going to be featuring an amazing person, Dan Dorr of Doré Property Rentals. I've known Dan for quite a while. He's a wealth of knowledge, both on the property management side, growing a business, and one of the most important things, which is scaling up our business from just being a job into being an actual business. So part one of this episode is going to cover off how he grew his property management business and how he's taking it from a job to an actual business with multiple employees and being able to step back a little bit. And then the second part of this episode, which will be released on a separate day, we'll go into some property management basics and how to keep those great tenants and how to weed out the bad tenants. And we'll go into some really nitty gritty on the Landlord and Tenant Act, especially here in Ontario. Thank you very much for joining us, and I really appreciate it. And please, if you haven't done so already, please click the subscribe button down below or up at the top, depending on what feature you're using. Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for another episode of The Practical Broker. Today on the show, we have Dan Dorr of Doré Property Management. Dan has been in the property management business for over 20 years, an Ottawa local, and he's grown his business from being a small boutique property management firm to, I would say, one of the premier firms in Ottawa. And today he's really going to help, share some secrets and some things he learned about going from, a small business that many of us are as entrepreneurs as a job and going into creating a company with proper protocols and staff and a little bit of his journey and a couple of value bombs along the way that will hopefully speed up the process for everybody listening when they want to transition their business from being just their small 1, 2, 3-man show into a little bit of a bigger enterprise. So welcome, Dan. Thank you very much. And please give the listeners a little bit, tell us a little bit about yourself, other than that you've been an amazing property manager for 20 years.
Thanks, Chad. I appreciate that. I appreciate the opportunity to do this podcast with you today. So for me, I've been investing in real estate, since 1999. Started off with my first apartment in my house, to try to subsidize the expenses. And when I got a taste of how that worked, I kind of learned from there how to leverage and how to make use of leveraging to get involved in more units. And along the way, wanted to start a business of my own, essentially, where it just made sense to continue in that trend because I was already doing it, and I have the personality for it. So it's not for everybody to do that. I understand that most people don't get involved in this just because they don't want to deal with the day-to-day stuff, and I get it, right? I tend to make light of a lot of that, because it's a lot of it is emotions, and I don't have too many issues with that. But we started the management company, and over the years, it's, as anybody that starts a business from scratch. I heard somebody not too long ago say, starting a business from scratch is a repetition of false starts over and over again until something sticks. And I'm like, wow, that's a good way to to describe it, because that was me. You get a bit of traction. Next thing I'd get some clients that we'd manage property, and then decide, oh, the market's great, and they'd sell everything, and they're like, great, but then I have nothing to manage, and then have to start over. So it was, I think anybody that starts in any business, it's never easy at the beginning, and it was no different for me. But I tend to have this little trait of craziness to just continue on and push, and along the way attracted some like-minded people that make up the Team Doré, we like to say today. And we've helped countless investors with their investment properties, and we've handled thousands of units over the years. So it's that's a quick snippet of that, for sure.
Perfect. I love the fact that you were house hacking before people knew what house hacking was, right? That basement suite and started when you were young. Like that's amazing. I say that to a lot of my clients in the mortgage business. Like if you're young and you're in your 20s, if you can buy a house, put an apartment in the basement, or even rent a room in the basement, and then increase your cash flow that way, very quickly you can own 2, 3, 4 rentals, and it's not complicated. But a lot of people just don't take the effort. That's amazing.
And you know what? I second that, Chad. I mean, to me, a lot of times people come in now because I've, over 20 years in this, they're like, oh, wow. And I'm like, well, it's just a series of small steps compounded over years, right? And to me, if you're in your 20s, the best thing you can do is learn that now. But if you're able to keep all your expenses at a bare minimum, right? Live within your means or way below your means, then start investing that extra cash flow, then all of a sudden, you got a lot more chances to, to be financially secure as you go through. But
You mean you shouldn't?
unfortunately, people don't do that. Yeah.
No, you mean you shouldn't buy the Porsche when you're 24 years old? Come on, what's wrong with that?
Right. Well, I don't know. I guess that's another topic. But we're supposed to be
We're car guys, so
we're supposed to be specific to doing the right thing.
Yeah.
I when I was in my early 20s, I had my Ford Mustang GT, so I know all about that, right? So it
For
is what
sure.
it is. But yeah.
So, one of the things I wanted to really talk about today was how you've grown your business, right? Like you started really small, you added that one employee, and you added another employee. And now, from our conversations, you're at a level where it's kind of getting into that mature stage of the business, where it's becoming a real business, where you're not dealing with every single client. You have processes and procedures and staff. And tell me a little bit of that journey and what are some of the challenges and what, something you learned that would have sped you along. If somebody would have said, 20 years ago or 15 years ago, Dan, do this, it's going to help.
Yeah. I think it's everything has its time, right? So I don't know that if I knew what I know today 4 or 5 years ago, that I really would have done anything with it. Right. So it's interesting how everything has its time, right? So you can learn something now, but if you're not mentally ready for that, they can tell you, you should do that, you should do that, should do that. But if you don't think it's possible, or you don't want to, or so it's interesting because for me, I love progress. And if something is not progressing, that's when I get really frustrated and I start, pulling everything out of the ground, because that's my personality. Everybody's a bit different. So for me, it's up to about 4 or 5 years ago, we had a steady progression in the business, right? And when you start a business from scratch, and for me, when I started from scratch, I was involved in everything. Right? Meaning that nothing. So I had a really good team, but everything, somebody described it as Dan's the linchpin in all of these decisions, which makes the whole process slower. Right? So the team can't grow if you're set up that way. So I had to realize that, whoa, I'm slowing the process down, right? So at certain points, I tell my team, we hit a point and I said, I'm driving this business with both feet on the brake pedal, because the business that we're coming in is substantially more than what we can handle. But that wasn't true. Right? That's what I thought. Because I was like, holy, I don't know how much more I can put in, because it just keeps going, coming. And it was like, for me saying, whoa, hang on a sec. I want to make sure we have control over everything. But then so hitting your head against the wall over years, and then you reach a point where we had, probably not the last years, but probably like a 3 to 4 year where we barely increased, right? And it's not from the lack of demand, because the demand was there.
Right.
I kept asking myself, like, why? Why? And then started talking to people with a different mindset, and they look at it from a different perspective. And it's a very common thing, I think, for people who start businesses. And you and I have had these discussions, right? It's a very common thing for us. It's our baby, right? So you started from scratch and you want to control everything. And up until I want to say early part of this year, like I had zero social media presence. I want none of that. To me, that was white noise. I don't want to deal with that, right? And so we brought in some. So what we did is I got to a point, I'm like, okay, obviously this isn't, it's working, but it's not growing. So what needs to happen? And you start asking the right questions, right? What needs to happen to get here? then you're like, okay, well, you trust your people. And if you trust your people, can you make sure that stuff is done, but you can still see through the systems how the processes are working, how it's, you get an unbiased opinion as to how everything's working. So it's really chipping at it from asking the right questions and then attracting other people and then giving them the responsibility to take on a much bigger role and letting them run with it, right? And then just you still keep track of it. And if it's not the way you want it, then you rein in and you have a discussion, you readjust. And you have to do that all the time. It's just part of the game. But it's a matter of changing the mindset that Dan can't be involved in everything, or else it's you can't. There's only 7 days in a week and 24 hours in a day, and
you get overloaded.
You just can't. And then it's so it's not fun for anybody, because everybody wants to be part of something that grows, right? The people who really like to move want to be part of something that grows. So and me included.
I think it's a lot to kind of parenting, right? And you got the helicopter parents that are like trying to control their kids and every single action, and then you got other parents, which is where I fall in, is that we want to keep our kids safe, but they still got to fall and scrape their knees. You got to let them learn, give them the responsibility, like you said, to grow and grow up and to challenge. And we learn by our challenges, and we learn by having responsibility. And letting our staff do that is just as scary as letting your kid ride the bike the first time and letting go of that seat as you're teaching your son or daughter to ride a bike. And like, oh my God, they're gonna fall. Yeah, okay, they might, but they won't kill themselves, and they'll get back up, and now they can ride a bike. So
it's a very good parallel. And I guess for me, at the point where the systems I had were very limited to control that, right? So it's one thing to let them do what has to be done, but if there's negative repercussions, you want to be able to rein it in very clean, just a sail, right? Because as well as I do, you get a few bad stumbles, and all of a sudden you're in a whole different area where you have to mitigate that situation or get to continue on. And I'm trying not to do that as well. But it's an ongoing thing, right? Because
always,
it's an ongoing thing. So yeah.
Well, most entrepreneurs have that same philosophy that you do and that I do, is you're always pushing, you're always growing, you're trying to level up, right? It's this constant level up. And it amazes me about the whole mindset conversation you've had, because I did a show, I was a part of a conference a little while ago, and I was talking about mindset. And it wasn't until I wrote this speech that I realized, like, oh my God, I thought I had mindset completely under control. And I was looking back, at this time I didn't have it, at this time I didn't have it. And now I've just leveled up my thinking that, hey, you're always growing, you're always being challenged. So that's awesome.
And I think that is,
Oh, go ahead. Do you think that is?
Sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Where was your biggest challenge? You find, was it getting the systems in place, or was it the staff, like the people?
I said the biggest was in between my ears.
Okay.
Just to absorb that. No, and I mean, that was the biggest challenge, because, with anything, and everybody's a bit different, but for me, if I'm convinced this is the way we're going, that's where we're going. It's just, it's, I don't know exactly how, all the steps, how we're going to get there, but we're going there. Right. So it was really me more than anything. And the people, the people that we got great people. Right. And I have people that have been with me for years. And for them, it was a bit tough, obviously, because you're coming in and all of a sudden you're like, it's, as everything was kind of, going, pretty steady. And all of a sudden it's like you're ripping Band-Aids off right, left, and center, and then changing and bringing new people in. And okay, now you're going to report to this person. You're going to make sure that, you follow this process. And they're like, what? What's going on? Right. Well, we got some really good people that have adapted very well. And we got some new blood in also. With different ideas, different experiences, and you just keep the challenge up, right? And I think it's you gotta keep pushing, and we're having fun with it. I have to admit, like, part of the reason I always tell everybody, think of all the people we're gonna be able to help, and all the awesome people you're gonna meet along the way, right? Because as you're doing nice things and bigger things, and we can give back, we can do things that we weren't able to do before.
Right.
It's all full circle. So
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's a couple of things you hit on that I really want to circle back around. And one of the first things was, and it really flows into mindset. So the overall theme I'm getting from you today is mindset, mindset, mindset. And we all hear this and it almost becomes a white noise, right? But like you're proof and I'm proof that if the leader of your business is working on their mindset constantly, it's like exponential growth for your business. And one of the limiting beliefs I think that you had, which I've had and many people have, is that this idea that you said you're driving with 2 feet on the brake because your business can't handle the growth, you can't bring it in. You didn't know how to handle it, right? Because you were the linchpin kind of slowing things down. And there was Grant Cardone 10X, the book 10X. I'm not sure if you've read it, but it
Oh, yeah.
really, you did, yeah.
Multiple times.
Did you? Yeah. One of the things shifted me when I read that the first time, and it was, if your biggest problem in your business is that you have so much business coming in the door, that's a great problem to have. And for most businesses, you can solve that pretty quickly. You just hire the right staff, you get the right systems in place, and that sounds easy. But if I have 1,000 mortgage clients waiting to get filed, I'm pretty sure I can find underwriters to deal with that pretty quickly. Just like you, right? If you have a whole bunch of building owners knocking on your door saying, "Hey, we want you," you'll find some staff quickly to deal with it.
Yeah.
So our limiting beliefs often hold our businesses back.
There's no doubt. And I mean, the funniest thing is we had, the team that I have, I always tell the team, right? When we have discussions and I ask you questions, I don't want you to tell me what you think I want to hear.
Yeah.
I want you to tell me what you think,
Yeah.
right? And if I see somebody's a bit uncomfortable, I challenge them. No,
Right.
what, so, and we have a really good chemistry, right? But it's always like, I know you maybe not want to offend me, but it's okay. I won't be offended. I just need to hear it, right? And it was interesting because the mindset that I had, that I figured out as we were going through this, is as I'm the problem, right? I'm the problem. The problem meaning I'm the one that's holding this back from going to where it needs to go, right? So the way we shifted that is I asked, and especially the new people that came in with very, varied experience and all that, and they come in from a different background, and they come in and they realize you got all these things going, but you're slowing it down, right? Yeah. I'm like, wow. So that was a revelation. I had to not get out of the way in a sense of get out of the way, but get out of the way in a sense that you don't need to be involved in everything, right? So what we did is we came up with a strategy to say, okay, well, if we do that, so what becomes my biggest role then here? How do I fuel this, right? So I have no issues not getting involved if I know things are getting done properly and I have the feedback. And now I look at the Google reviews that we get from our operations departments are phenomenal. And I get the sales are up and the systems are there and I can track everything. So I can log in early in the morning, watch and see, okay, how many outstanding work orders, okay, any receivables, payables, how much money, So I can see a bird's eye view. So I feel very comfortable. And if something's off, then I can question it. But we figured that, and Sunil, as I have as a mentor, and he's telling me, he says, Dan, you got to get out of the mentality, that you need to talk to somebody one-on-one. Yeah. You need to figure out a way to leverage your time to speak to 10 people, 50 people, 100 people, 1,000 people at a time, right? Because the issue is your time is limited. So if you restrict that time on a one-on-one, then you're only helping one-on-one.
Yeah, true.
Which is fine. But if you're, if you want to scale the business and really, show people, help people, yeah, then you need to play a different role, right? Yeah. And the team echoed that in a separate meeting that was completely unrelated, right? So they said, no. So you need to get up there and you need to sell us. Yeah. And I'm like, huh. So you'll see where it triggers a bunch of stuff that's happening now, right? Yeah. Where I've already seen it. Yeah. Yeah, no, exactly. So I'll absorb it. And I said to me, like, I mean, there was no desire for me to start speaking or get on podcasts. It was I prefer to be under the radar. But to me, at this stage, that's the role I have to play. Yeah. So I'm going to play it, and I'm going to play full out, right? So yeah, so that's so this is happened. The shift has happened. Now you're starting to see the results of it. So it'd be interesting to see. Um, really interesting to see. Like I've already seen the result internally. So I'm
Yeah.
like, wow, okay, that makes a difference, right? And then yeah.
So what do you recommend? So we'll wrap this segment up with a, I guess one sort of advice or book or coach or something that, because a lot of business owners realize that they are that linchpin that's slowing their business down, and they recognize it, but they're stuck. They don't know how to go from, being that, shoemaker or real estate salesperson or whoever to that next level. And like, so you know, what started you on your journey? Like, where was the most value that you got? Was it books? Was it coaching? What was the beginning?
I'd say both. I coaching, through mentorship, somebody who has not somebody who's a friend that wants to comfort you and say how good you are. No,
Right. Yeah.
somebody will really look at you and say, "This is what I think you should do." Right? So books and all that, and I think everybody's maybe on a different, level of where they are with that.
Yeah.
But I would say, one of the things I heard not too long ago, I said that's brilliant, and they said, get a bunch of information from experts,
Yeah.
unrelated to one another,
Mm.
right? And it was funny because I've done that. So
Yeah.
books that contradict each other,
Mm.
and speakers that contradict each other.
Yeah.
Get all of that data based on what you think you need for your business, and then you make the decision.
That's a good plan. That's good advice.
You make the decision. It's in your gut. You kind of have a better idea than anybody else what's in the best interest of your company. But to move the needle, ask. And some people, they may give you a bunch of things and you're like, yes, no, like, one of the things I'll say at the talk on December 5th, I reveal that because this is one of the things that got me into to being challenged, right? So yeah, ask a lot of questions, absorb it, and then you make the decision. You don't have to do it because somebody else says that's what you need to do.
Right.
If you don't feel it's the right thing you need to do, right?
Yeah.
That's what I think. So
100%. And you know what? I'm glad you reminded me about that. December 5th, you are speaking, and let's give a quick plug to that conference and how people find out about it, and also how people find out about you, and if they're interested in more about your services, how do they reach you? So conference details first, then how do they reach you?
Yeah, so conference details, this will be fun. It'll be my first live talk. So it's and if you'd asked me a few months ago if I'd be doing that, I would say there's just no way I'm doing that. So it's a wealth mastery through the private investment club. It's done on December 5th. I think it starts at 10 a.m. It's called a wealth mastery, 10 a.m. to 5:30. And there's some really amazing speakers. There's Robert Allen, which is a lot of people know him from the no money down type real estate. They'll be speaking. You'll have Kevin Harrington. You have obviously Sunil, the founder of Private Investment Club, and you have Robert Kiyosaki, the author of Rich Dad Poor Dad. So I think that's, there's a good string of speakers, and I've been fortunate enough to be part of those speakers. So obviously it's all done virtually because of the pandemic, but it'll be on the same event. And if the tickets are free for people to come in. So you can go into my LinkedIn account, Dan Doré, Dore, LinkedIn. And if not, just send me a message and I'll send you the link so you can get in. And you can upgrade from there if you want more access or videos, whatever. But the initial, you want to watch it, it's free. So the tickets are free. So that'd be
That's great.
That's taking place on December 5th. Yep.
Amazing. And
10 days, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fast. So, and quickly, how do people want to reach you, or if you want people to reach you about property management services, or just to get to know you, what's the best way to reach you?
Yeah, so if they want property management services, they can call the office or reach out directly through the website, DoréRentals.com.
Right.
And we have, social media, Facebooks. We have a LinkedIn profile with the company that we have. The marketing department has an Instagram feed that they go in. But if you want to talk more, so if you want to talk about having your properties managed or so on, that would be the right way to go. But if you want, and I have my own LinkedIn profile, Dan Doré, as I mentioned just a minute ago. where, if you have any specific questions for me, I'll gladly take the time to read your question and answer you. Yeah, so that's probably the easiest way to do it. So
That's amazing. That's great.
yeah.
So DorRentals.com, and on LinkedIn, Dan Dor. Yeah, there you go, right behind DorRentals.com. That's perfect.
Yeah.
For those of us on YouTube, and if you're just listening,
Yeah.
I really appreciate this, Dan. And for all of our listeners, stay tuned for segment 2 of this, which will be releasing a couple days after this episode, where Dan and I are going to go into talking about the nuts and bolts of property management, especially residential tenancies here in Ontario specifically, and some great value bombs on that. So if you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the channel. It means a lot to us if you're clicking up or clicking down, depending on what you're doing, or give the thumbs up button. So please subscribe here. And thank you very much for listening to another episode of The Practical Broker. Have an amazing day.